Hi, we are back live. Thank you. Good to go.
Okay. So as I said, this meeting is being held electronically. The meeting is currently being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. That means that anyone who is a participant in the meeting via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. People on the Zoom meeting waiting to testify cannot be seen or heard until they are called upon to speak. This meeting will be recorded and available to view on the committee's YouTube channel soon after this meeting has concluded. In a moment, I will have committee members introduce themselves again. I'm not sure if we caught that on the live stream or not, but if your name on the Zoom square is not the name used to register to testify, it may be a bit of a challenge for us to identify you. This format is new to all of us, and we expect that there will be unforeseen glitches and mistakes. Please be patient. We are doing our best, and we will learn as we go along and hopefully improve along the way. Thank you. A reminder to members of the committee about the use of the Zoom chat function. This function is not to be used for substantive discussions by anyone. You should know that the chat window can be viewed by any person taking part in this meeting as a participant. Participants include members of the committee, staff, and any member of the public during the time they have been promoted to participant for the purposes of providing testimony. All questions of persons testifying will be made through the chair. For each bill being heard today, I or my co-chair will call on sponsors and co-sponsors to speak first. When called upon, you will be promoted from attendee to participant. After presentation by sponsors and co-sponsors, we will call upon members of the public based on how they're registered to testify for the bill, against the bill, or neither for nor against the bill, but wishing to provide information. Just quickly, I'm going to start with Senator Rosen. We'll go around, do quick introductions, and then we'll go on to open the public hearing for LD 596.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kimberly Rosen, Senate District 8 from Castine all the way up to Lincoln. I live in Bucksport.
Representative Paulus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Sean Paulus. I represent House District 52, which is all the city of Bath.
Senator Claxton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Ned Claxton. I represent Senate District 20, which is Auburn, Minot, Mechanic Falls, Poland, and New Gloucester.
Thank you. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Lynn Copeland. I am honored to represent the people in District 14, which is downtown and coastal Saco. Thank you and welcome.
Representative Reisman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Walter Reisman. I represent District 69, which is Bridgeton, Harrison, and Denmark.
Thank you. Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Randy Greenwood, House District 82, Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
Representative Toole.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Will Toole. I represent the Machias area plus Lubec and Eastport, which is House District 139.
Representative Head.
My name is Frances Head. I live in Bethel and I represent District 117. Starts at the Canadian border and goes down to Lovell, including Greenwood. And I have Rangeley in Franklin County and the rest are in Oxford County. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Mark Bryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Mark Bryan. I represent House District 24, part of the town of Wyndham. Pleasure.
Great. Representative Downs.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kathy Downs. I represent District 130, which is Bucksport and Orrington. Thank you.
Great. Representative Ann Matlack, my co-chair.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. My name is Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Keyhaven, and the Muscle Ridge Island. And I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce our staff, Lynn Caswell, who is our legal analyst, and Cheryl McGowan, who is our committee clerk.
Great. And I'm Joseph Baldacci. I represent Senate District 9, which is the city of Bangor and the town of Herman. So gone through the introductions. So the first, I'll open the public hearing on LD 596, an act to improve the law regarding abandoned roads. We want to hear from the sponsor first.
My turn.
Yes.
Good morning, Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlack, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I'm Ned Claxton, and I represent Senate District 20, which includes Auburn, Minot, Mechanic Falls, Poland, and New Gloucester. I'm here today to introduce LD 596, which is an act to improve the law regarding abandoned roads. This bill is a reintroduction of a bill from the 129th legislature that was developed based on work done between the first and second sessions. As this and other committees of state and local have learned over the years, roads and cemeteries are recurring topics for bills. In this instance, the many challenges of dealing with discontinued and/or abandoned roads led us in the committee to form a subcommittee. Following a number of meetings during the interim and working with the knowledgeable members of the public and the committee, we were able to focus on a particular issue related to roads discontinued by abandonment and come up with a bill that earned broad support. The amended version was unanimously passed out of committee. The bill was then circulated through the chambers, passed to be enacted, and placed on the special appropriations table where it died at the end of the 129th in March 2020. I'll have more to say about the special appropriations table in a bit. There are several intents in this bill. One, it makes more transparent the process of declaring a road abandoned. By doing so, it avoids many of the confusing aspects of this process for adjacent landowners. It does not change the status of roads that were previously abandoned or limit the use of common law presumption of abandonment. Those options remain available to the municipality. It leaves municipal officers or county commissioners other options by which to declare a road abandoned and describes those processes. It provides for notification of affected property owners, those who abut the roadway or who depend on it for access to their property, and defines the content of the required notification. It allows for public hearing if at least 25% of the affected property owners file a request. And it provides for an appeal process, which formerly needed to go to the Maine Supreme Court, or which currently goes to the Maine Supreme Court. It makes it clear whether a public easement is maintained or not, and what the impact of the decision means to abutting property owners and the municipality. It requires an attested certificate of discontinuation by abandonment be filed in the county's registry of deeds. Each of these intentions addresses one of the issues that surfaced during the work of the committee. What it does not do is change the status of previously abandoned townways under the previous version of this bill. And B, it does not alter the ability of a townway to be abandoned under the common law presumption of abandonment, which has been in place since 1916. The requirements in this amendment that a municipality or county provide notice and the opportunity for hearing if the municipality or county takes the step of declaring a roadway abandoned does not require an expansion or modification of activities, because there is no requirement that a municipality or county abandon a townway or declare a townway abandoned. For this reason, and based on the infrequency of this process being invoked, the committee felt strongly that a fiscal note was not needed. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Senator Claxton. Are there any questions for Senator Claxton? Representative Toole?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Claxton. I want to first congratulate you on the work you did chairing that subcommittee a couple of years ago. It was a long process throughout the course of the summer. And I believe you made a good faith effort to meet everybody halfway. So with that, could you explain more in depth about some of the issues that we talked about on the subcommittee and some of the more of the balance that you've struck with this legislation?
Well, thank you for that, Representative Toole. And I want to be careful to recognize that it isn't something that I accomplished. We had some very capable people on that committee, including yourself and Representative Head. And I think was Representative Reisman part of that conversation, or Bryant? But we had some very capable legislators and some very interested in committee and committed citizens who contributed their amazing knowledge base. So I think, though, one of the ways to understand what we negotiated was to go back to each of the intents of the bill. And one of the problems we came across was that roads were being considered abandoned by multiple different definitions of what that meant. Were they discontinued and abandoned? Were they abandoned by the laws that were passed in 1976? Were they abandoned by the laws that were passed, or the Supreme Court ruling that was done in 1919? So we tried to make more transparent the process of declaring a road abandoned. And that involved notification of affected property owners. We had any number of examples where property owners found out that they were responsible for maintaining to the middle of the road and didn't know it. And we found other examples where property owners thought they were supposed to be maintaining to the middle of the road and weren't supposed to because the municipality had a right of way. So we created a definition of affected property owners, which were those who abut the roadway, plus anybody else who has to use that roadway to access their properties, because we found a number of instances where people used, quote, abandoned roads to get to a piece of property that didn't abut the road, but got them access to another piece of property that they could then use to access theirs. So the laws have only been an issue since the King's Highway was developed. And this was an attempt to kind of nibble at the edges to answer some of the more pressing concerns about people being surprised that their road to camp is now abandoned or wasn't abandoned. Who's responsible for the maintenance? This also sets up the option for a public hearing if the folks who are impacted, a certain number, a certain percentage, want to have a hearing. As it stands now, too, if somebody wants to appeal a municipality decision, they have to go to the Maine Superior Court, which by itself is a disincentive because of the costs involved with legal fees. So we wanted to come up with something that was more equitable in terms of access to an appeal process. And another major issue we came up with was about the whole subject of public easement and whether or not it was maintained, and the different definitions or expectations of what that public easement entailed involved a lot of the conversation, as well as things related to that, like what's a motor vehicle. So we deferred to existing statute on the definitions, but we tried to make clear what the impact of declaring a public easement or not was. And we also required that whatever the decision was, when the decision was made to certify a road discontinued by abandonment, that there be a file in the county registry of deeds so that it could be found and referenced in the future by anybody else doing title searches. So that's kind of a high level. Lynn has prepared an excellent summary of the other topics we talked about. And my knowledge is probably not as adequate as Representative Toole's on some of these topics, and I defer to him on some of them.
Okay, Lynn, do you want to present your, do you have the information to present us now, or do you want to? Hi, Lynn. I don't know if she's on. There she is.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not have my bill analysis ready. I did send everyone the report back from last session.
Okay. I just want to say, as an attorney who has taken, there are more abandoned roads cases than one might imagine. And having dealt with two, our office took two to the state Supreme Court, one that we won, one that we didn't win. But if this reduces the need for litigation, I personally will be very happy about that because this is a public service to reduce the area of litigation unnecessarily. So I'm glad, even though it takes away work from fellow attorneys, I think it's definitely needed from what I've seen for neighbor to neighbor disputes over the years. So is that part of what you think is going to simplify the process and make it easier for people to have these disputes resolved, Senator Claxton?
Senator Baldacci, we have other people we need to hear from. This is a public hearing. I think most of your discussion will be available at the work session that'll be
Well, I was just
scheduled for a
asking,
bit later.
yeah, no, I was just asking him if that's part of the reasoning was to make this more simpler and less litigious. Is that part of the reason?
Yes, that was the goal of the legislation, to in an area that was fairly well confined, because we started with a huge area of problems related to roads, that we tried to focus on something that was manageable and important to abutters.
Great. So I understand that we have a number of people in favor. The next person would be Roberta Manter from Maine Roadways. Is she here?
She is.
Ms. Manter, welcome.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you.
Absolutely.
Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlack, members of the State and Local Government Committee. My name is Roberta Manter, and I'm a resident of Fayette and the founder of Maine Roadways, which is an acronym for Residents and Owners on Abandoned and Discontinued Ways. I already put in my written testimony, and I'm going to depart from that and just ask that you read it because it will be different from what I'm going to say. I wanted to try to, in part, answer Representative Toole's question about looking into the issues more in depth. And I thought maybe a good way to do that would be to tell you some examples of what very commonly happens on these abandoned roads. In one case, and this is very typical, a gentleman bought a small farm in 1973. In 1993, he asked the town to repair the road because it was getting pretty bad. And he was told, oh no, that road was abandoned from 1957 to 1987. Now you notice the abandonment was 14 years after he bought his property. He had had no notice. He had no way of knowing that this road was abandoned. He just knew that the town hadn't been in there doing much with it and that it was getting kind of bad. In 2008, someone bought property on the other side of the road, and in 2020, they claimed that they own the entire road all the way across to his side and they won't let him have access. So now we have this 88-year-old man who is being bullied by a neighbor, and neither the town nor law enforcement will do anything for him because they don't understand the law well enough to know that when they abandoned the road, it kept a public easement, which he and any other member of the public should be able to use freely. This is a very typical case. In another case, the town told someone that they hadn't been maintaining the road because no one was living there, but it wasn't discontinued. So they bought a piece of property, went to great expense fixing up an old house that was on it. And then when ATVs started tearing up the road, they asked the town, can you stop the ATVs from using this road and put some repair into it? And they said, oh no, that road is abandoned. Well, this is the first they said that it was abandoned. They actually came out with a formal declaration at that time that the road was abandoned. And this person who had put all this work into it had a huge stack of information showing why it should not qualify for abandonment. She tried to appeal it. I ran into a bunch of technicalities. It went to the Maine Supreme Court, bounced back again, ran into another technicality, and she finally ran out of money to fight it. And she should have won because she had such a huge stack of information showing the road didn't qualify for abandonment. This again is very, very typical. I have several cases of lost access because people were not actually abutters on the road. They had either a right of way that went from the road or the road that was being abandoned connected to another road, which was not abandoned, or the road crossed a town line and somebody in the other town is then landlocked because there's no access from their side. Another case where there was a single residence that's on an abandoned road that's not part of the snowmobile trail system. but it is a convenient shortcut for the person who drives the groomer. So he goes zooming right past their house within just yards of their house, which is illegal under the snowmobile laws. He has to be 200 feet away from any dwelling. But instead of the town supporting the people in the house who don't want the snowmobile coming past them, the town is supporting the snowmobile driver and saying that these people must not obstruct the road by plowing up the snow at the end of it, even though the snowmobile groomer has been able to go over the snow pile. Another case of a road discontinued in 1974, now a public easement, and a logging operation has just torn the life out of it going up and down the road. In many cases, these roads are considered open to any kind of public use, whatever, including ATVs and even log skidders skidding their logs right straight down the road. One of the things this bill will do is it will restrict that to motor vehicles as defined under the motor vehicle laws, which would at least cut out the ATVs and log skidders. It'll still allow log trucks, unfortunately, but it will restrict it somewhat. I have a lot of calls from realtors and buyers who can't find the records, and the town either says the records are not available or they can't be bothered to look for them. Or they do go looking for them and can't find them because they don't know where to look. There's another case where the town discontinued part of a road and didn't discontinue another part, but they're refusing to maintain the part that they didn't discontinue. So that in effect is sort of preempting abandonment. They're intending to abandon it even though they haven't reached the 30-year mark yet, and that's not how the law is supposed to be used. It's supposed to be for roads that have been forgotten and nothing's been done on them for the last 30 years. So those are just some of the examples I have. I have people get in touch with me all the time. I've had, I think, 3 new ones in the past week, all with complaints about either abandoned or discontinued roads and the problems that people run into with them. I get calls from realtors. I get calls from people looking to buy land, wanting to know what is the status of this road, and the records just aren't there. So this bill would help by making the record not only available at the Registry of Deeds and at the DOT, but also one of the improvements of this bill is that it would require the record at the Registry of Deeds to be filed cross-reference to all the affected properties. And again, there's the distinction between affected properties and abutting properties, that this would take it a step further. Rather than only notifying the people who actually have property touching the road, that if they depend on that road for access in any way, that they would be included in affected properties. So I think this bill does a very good job of addressing some of the critical problems that we have with recording it, with announcing it to people, making people know what's going to happen, and giving them an appeals process that's more accessible than the expense of going to Superior Court.
Great.
Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Representative Matlack, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, sir. Ms. Manter, thank you for being with us again. I appreciate this information. A quick question for you. You mentioned that affected property owners would be attached to the deed, as it were, with regard to an abandoned road. Is that a burden on the Register of Deeds at the county level, or is this something that can be simply done nowadays because of the computerization of records?
Someone from the Registry of Deeds was in on the discussion on this, and they said that as long as the town files with them the list of the affected properties, that they won't have to go looking them all up. If they were going to have to research themselves to find out who the affected properties were, that would be a burden. But they said as long as the town in their notice to the Registry of Deeds includes that list, then it shouldn't be burdensome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Representative Head? You're on mute.
I do have a question about what if the records aren't available any longer, like fires have happened at town offices? Where do they go from there? How do they get on that list?
That gets to be quite a challenge. This is one of the things that Maine Roadways does for people, is try to track down what the records are. It's a little bit different with abandonment as opposed to discontinuance. In the case of discontinuance, you would have to find the record of the town warrant article where there was a vote to discontinue the road. But in the case of abandonment, it's a matter of the town not having done any maintenance on the road for 30 years.
30 years.
And usually the records for the last 30 years are pretty readily available. It's when you get back into the older stuff that it gets hard to find.
Exactly. And then how do we treat these roads if an issue comes up, if there is no record, like
Well,
long ago?
That's where I end up digging into things. There are a number of resources available. One is the Maine DOT Public Map Viewer site. They have records of all the county road layouts and all the county discontinuances of county roads. So if a road was ever a county road, that's a good place to look for it.
Is that at the registry? Would that Maine DOT information be available at the registry, or has it ever been filed there?
Oh, it's right online. Anybody can go to the Maine DOT map viewer.
So it is not in the registry?
No.
Should it
but
be?
The registry could easily just pull up the website and it's right there. And if anybody wants help finding how to use that website, I'd be happy to talk them through it. It's a little bit tricky. You have to know how to go to the layers and pull up the layer that has road layouts and discontinuances.
Thank you.
Another resource is that the state library has a pretty complete collection of town reports. So in a lot of cases where the town records were destroyed, you can still find it at the state library. There are also a number of map sites that have old topographical maps, old aerial photos, and you can go online and take a look at when the road was there, when the road became, instead of a solid double line, it went to a double dotted line or a single dotted line. And that's often a good indication of when a town ceased maintenance on a road. So there are a lot of ways of finding it. And again, I'm a resource that's available if anybody is having trouble tracking down one of these roads.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite helpful, and I do appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Manter? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Manter. I think our next speaker is Tom Doak with the Maine Woodland Owners. Mr. Doak, welcome.
Thank you. Chair Baldacci, Chair Matlack, members of the committee, my name is Tom Doak. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Woodland Owners. We're the organization that works with the smaller woodland owners in the state. Speaking in favor, this bill actually originated from us 2 years ago. It's an issue that it's probably the most confusing issue for smaller woodland owners that they face, the status of old roads. Abandonment, when it was enacted in 1976, it made perfect sense. The intent was to make it clear and get rid of roads that were clearly gone and not being used and overgrown and that had been lost to history. And so it made perfect sense. But when the law was created, I don't think anybody anticipated all the impacts that the lack of clarity and detail would cause. And Senator Claxton did a fantastic job of outlining the issues and how to address some of these issues. I actively participated with the subcommittee, and I appreciate all the chance I had to provide input in this. I just want to go through a couple of things. Really, what this bill is trying to do is clarify going forward how abandonment is handled, give people an opportunity to be aware that it's occurring. In response to Representative Head, I think what this process would do is say, notice people who are impacted. It provides those people a chance also to provide any evidence that they have that abandonment can't take place. Abandonment means no maintenance for 30 years, but notifying the landowners gives them an opportunity if they think that standard hasn't been met, they could provide their own information in a public forum. So that isn't available to them now. Currently, the municipality can simply declare it abandoned, and that is essentially the status of it unless a landowner goes to Superior Court, and that's one of the issues. So there's no local appeal. So it addresses the notice requirement. It creates a public process. It creates a local appeal process, and then a permanent record. And that's really critical to this permanent record so that people purchasing land can figure this out. There are two things that happen when a road is abandoned. The land reverts to the center, the ownership reverts to the center of the road. And either if there's no public easement, the owners own to the middle, or the owners own to the middle, but there's a public easement. And that public easement can create havoc for landowners. The purpose of a public easement was initially to prevent landlocking. That was the purpose of an easement. But it has morphed into a bunch of different issues. So these landowners have to maintain the road for access to the property, but there's a public easement on it. So it's an odd situation. The public has use of it, but the landowner ends up having to maintain it. So that's one of the conflicts here. So these are really important issues. And one of the things that this bill does is clarifies what use can be made of that public easement. If you think about a public road, there are certain things you can do on a public road now. When it becomes abandoned but with a public easement, those same things would apply. But you can't drive a tank down them, and what can you do on these things? If you were to create a public easement, from the Constitution says if you create a public easement right from the start, the public easement can only be used for motor vehicles and foot traffic. And so this clarifies it going forward. Any road that's abandoned and there's a public easement retained, those same standards apply. That makes sense going forward. I do believe the biggest benefit of this is it prevents it stops us making these problems any worse. It doesn't affect anything that's already occurred, but it prevents us from making more confusion on future abandonments. It doesn't change anything that's already been declared abandoned. It doesn't make any town abandon a road, and it doesn't make any municipality hold on to a road they don't want. That's not the purpose. It's really to say, there are all these problems, let's clarify them going forward so that we avoid them in the future. So thank you very much for the chance to participate.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Doak? Okay, Mr. Doak, thank you very much for your time and your efforts. Okay, so that appears to be all the people that are in favor. I believe we have one person who is registered to speak against. Is that correct, Cheryl? And that is Rebecca Graham.
Yeah, she's here now.
Okay, Ms. Graham, welcome from the Maine Municipal Association.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci and Representative Matlack. I was not the individual that was able to work with Representative Toole and Senator Claxton and the committee last time. However, I did get involved in this issue later on in the session when we were doing a language review, and it appears that some of MMA's concerns regarding the language review have been dealt with in this particular draft. However, our positions are arrived at by a vote of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee, who has reviewed this and still do think that the existing law, the ones that we worked with both of those groups with, is working. It hasn't been tested. For instance, it is now a criminal issue to tear up a road that has a public easement on it that is also a private road. So the easement piece, it is currently criminal to do that. One of the concerns that they had in the last bill that hasn't actually been addressed in this particular bill is the notification on affected landowners. It's not clear how a municipality is going to figure out who that is. And while the burden might not be on the county or the registry of deeds to find that, if the municipality picks it up, it will certainly be on that municipality. And that piece we did feel was an unfunded mandate. The other piece is to just clarify that discontinuance, because these words keep being used kind of in an interchanged way. Discontinuance is an active process, and it is a process that has a formal process, and abandonment just happens. So there is some concern about roads and trying to figure out proof if someone comes up to a municipal official after the fact for older disused roads that they're going to have to actually go through a process that they wouldn't have to go through. And it's going to force that. We do understand the litigation piece, but we do think that the number of changes that have been made in the past 3 legislative sessions actually haven't been tested and are probably a better process to move forward with. But with that, I will be available for the public hearing, for the work session, and to answer any questions that I am possible or capable of answering at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Graham? Okay, seeing none, I don't believe, do we have anyone else, Cheryl, that wishes to speak?
We do not.
Okay.
Wait. Roberta Manter is raising her hand. I don't know if you want her back.
Well, does she have a question?
Her hand is raised.
I would just let Ms. Manter know that she can attend, that we'll have a work session on this, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I can close the public hearing on 596. And then open the public hearing on 646, which is Senator Bennett's bill.
Yes, and he is here. And he's coming right in. There he is.
Hi. Hi, good morning, Senator Bennett. You're here for an act to improve the administration of elections by ensuring an adequate number of poll workers. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Senator Baldacci. Good to see you this morning, Representative Matlack and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. My name is Senator Rick Bennett, and I have the honor of representing the beautiful Lakes region and foothills of Western Maine in the Maine Senate. I'm pleased today to present for your consideration LD 646, an act to improve the administration of elections by ensuring an adequate number of poll workers. According to a Bangor Daily News article from November of last year, about 78% of eligible Maine voters cast their ballots in the November election. This was not surprising to me because, as we all know, Maine is routinely among the states with the highest voter turnout. The BDN article goes on to say, quote, more than half of Maine voters cast their absentee ballots this year, either in person early or by mail, up from 1/3 of voters in 2016. Still, more than 300,000 voters still voted in person on election day, according to state data. For those people voting in person, many waited in long lines during what was a rather cold and windy day. Some folks reported waiting over an hour to vote. Voting is a right, and clearly one that Mainers take seriously. Having to wait in long lines discourages people from performing their civic duty. Part of the cause of this problem is a shortage of poll workers. According to Bloomberg, quote, even before the pandemic, the country's supply of poll workers was dwindling. More than 2/3 of jurisdictions reported difficulty recruiting enough staff in the 2018 midterm elections, which involved more than 600,000 poll workers. To fill these needs, local officials draw heavily from older citizens and retirees who have time to get trained and work all-day shifts on election day. Of those who served in 2018, 57% were over the age of 60, according to Bloomberg News. The bill before you today proposes one way to help this situation. It would allow a state employee here in Maine a paid day off, additional to all other earned hours of vacation time, sick leave, and whatnot, if the employee provides at least 6 hours of volunteer time on the day of an election, assisting election officials. According to the government's division of the U.S. Census Bureau in 2011, the last time we had the census, as you know, there were 20,700 full-time state government employees here. State employees live, as we know, in all corners of Maine, and I'm sure many of them would be happy to work at the polls if it meant they did not have to use their PTO. In my experience, state employees are among the most thoughtful and civic-minded of our fellow citizens. They understand and respect governmental processes well and could be tremendous assets to making our elections run more smoothly. I'm hopeful too that if the state sets an example with our employees, other organizations such as Maine businesses and not-for-profits may follow with similar policies. In fact, they are already doing this across the nation. According to the Wall Street Journal last fall, and all these citations are footnoted in my written testimony, quote, big employers, including Gap Inc., Old Navy, Target Corp., and Warby Parker, are telling employees they can take paid time off to volunteer as election workers this fall as they aim to help solve a national poll worker shortage and offer workers a way to find a sense of purpose, end quote. The journal also reported that an initiative called Power the Polls successfully recruited more than 350,000 people to serve as poll workers through its corporate partnerships. By tackling the shortage in poll workers that, given Maine's demographics, can be expected to continue, the bill before you will make Maine elections more accessible and efficient. I appreciate your time today and your attention to this important issue.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. Are there any questions for Senator Bennett? Senator Bennett, thank you. And obviously we'll have a work session, and we would obviously want your participation in that work session very much. And thank you for putting forward this idea.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. Good to be with you.
Thank you. So I'll close. I don't see that there's anyone else scheduled to speak on this. Is that correct, Cheryl?
That is correct.
Okay. So I will close the public hearing on LD 646. And that is it for the public hearings today. We'll take a 8-minute break to get up and walk around, and then we'll come back at 11 and start the work session. Okay.
Senator Baldacci, Representative Chul had his hand up real quick.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we break and totally lose the track of this current public hearing, for the work session, could we possibly have somebody from the employees union participating to give their thoughts on that previous?
Yeah, I'm sure we can accommodate that.
Have them.
Yeah. Are there any other requests for information by legislators for the work session on LD 646? No. Okay. Thank you. So we'll take a 7-minute break and be back shortly. Thank you. Okay, good morning again. State and Local Government Committee. Looks like we have a quorum. Okay, this is our work session for today. I am Senator Joseph Baldacci, and I'll be presiding over this work session of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. The format is new to all of us. We expect that there will be unforeseen glitches and mistakes. Please be patient. We are doing our best, and we will all learn as we go along and hopefully improve along the way. Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is for the committee to receive information from staff and others in order for members to consider the legislative proposals before them and make recommendations or reports to the legislature. Only committee members, the committee analysts, and those specifically invited to attend will be participating in the work session using Zoom. For members of the public wishing to observe this meeting, it is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel and will also be recorded for viewing after this meeting is concluded. We are also broadcasting the audio of this meeting on the legislature's website. The YouTube live stream of this meeting, which is accessible to the public, begins at the scheduled start time for the work session and will remain on until the end of the day's work. If your video or audio is on, even if the committee is not, then an active session or on a break, the public can see or hear you. Please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Please check to make sure that your name appears correctly on the Zoom screen. This is a public meeting, and I must remind you that while we are meeting, discussion must happen on screen and not by way of Zoom chat. You may use the chat to request to speak or to indicate that you are having a technical issue or to indicate that you are momentarily stepping away from the screen. However, again, you are not to use the chat feature for substantive discussions. If you are having technical difficulties, please contact the committee clerk, who will try to help resolve the problem. Members will speak with leave of the chair. Materials will be provided electronically for this meeting, either through screen share, email, or posted on the committee materials page before the meeting or soon after. When it comes time for the committee to vote, we must have a quorum present, which is at least 7 members, including at least 1 senator. In order to be counted as present, your identity must be visually verifiable on the Zoom screen. I will now call on members to introduce themselves around the screen. I will start with Representative Walter Reisman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I didn't expect to be first. My name is Walter Reisman, and I represent District 6. Am I on? Sorry.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm on. I represent District 69, which is Bridgeton, Harrison, and Denmark. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Ned Claxton.
Good morning again. My name is Ned Claxton, and I represent Senate District 20, which is Auburn, Minot, Mechanic Falls, Poland, and New Gloucester.
Okay. Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Randy Greenwood, House District 82, which is the towns of Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
Great. Representative Sean Paulus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Sean Paulus. I represent House District 52, which is all the city of Bath.
Thank you. Representative Downs.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kathy Downs. I represent District 130, which is Bucksport and Orrington. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kimberly Rosen, Senate District 8. I have 17 towns from Castine to Lincoln, plus the city of Brewer.
Great. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Lynn Copeland, and I proudly represent House District 14, which is downtown and coastal Saco. Thank you.
Representative Francis Head.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I represent District 117. It goes from the Canadian border to Lovell and includes Greenwood. And I live in Bethel. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Representative Mark Bryant.
Thank you, Senator. I'm Representative Mark Bryant. I represent House District 24, part of the town of Wyndham.
Great. Representative William Tool.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman. I'm Representative Will Toole. I represent House District 139, which is the Machias area plus Lubec and Eastport.
Okay, great. And Senator Ned Claxton.
I've already had the opportunity to introduce myself. I'll do it again if you wish.
Oh, sorry. Representative Ann Matlack, our co-chair.
Thank you, Mr. Baldacci. Mr. Chairman, my name is Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Cree Haven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands. And I wanted to introduce our analyst, Lynn Caswell, and our committee clerk, Cheryl McGowan.
Great, thank you. So I will now open the work session. We're going to start with LD 321. Is that correct? And is the sponsor of the bill here?
Well, and Lynn has some materials that she has provided to us, and she'll walk us through her analysis of this bill.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Lynn, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, the sponsor is in the waiting room. Oh, now he's in this room, so great. So LD 321 is an act to limit state legislators to a lifetime total of 16 years of legislative service. The last action by the committee was a motion to table. So if you would like to open a work session, you need to remove the bill from the table.
Okay, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Is it moved and seconded? Take a roll call on that? Or we just show of hands?
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do a roll call then.
Okay. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus.
Yes.
Representative Sean Paulus, yes. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. Unanimous off the table.
Great. Okay, so now Lynn, why don't you take us through some of your analysis and comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the committee remembers, when we had the work session on the 1st, this bill limits the lifetime terms that a legislator can serve to 16. It does not change the law that states that you cannot serve for more than 4 consecutive terms in either the House or the Senate. During the work session, there was discussion of a possible amendment, and I'm going to share the screen. I believe Senator Baldacci and Representative Greenwood asked that I draft language that makes it clear that the 16-year limit, you don't start counting until the 131st legislature. So any service prior to the 131st legislative session does not count towards the total. So what I have here is in red would be the language amendment if this was the committee's decision to go forward. And it, as it says, beginning with the 131st legislative session, a person may not serve more than 8 cumulative terms. I specifically added language that says terms served prior to the 131st are not counted. And there was transitional language that is no longer necessary. So it was a pretty easy amendment, but that's what it does. Starts counting with the 131st.
Okay, any questions for Lynn? Okay, Lynn, did you have any other comments about the bill or observations that we should be aware of?
Not anything since all the information I shared with you previously. And I think the one thing I would just point out, well, it's not relevant anymore since, so no, I have nothing more. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there comments by members of the committee? Can you take the screen share down or, thank you. Are there comments by members of the committee? Okay, Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, during our last work session, I think there was some confusion about, what the, everybody was concerned about, when the clock gets reset, so to speak. But I wanted to make it clear that I think you and I were on the page that we didn't want to make any changes to the existing law. So the 4 consecutive terms that was put in forth by the voters doesn't change. This is like adding another level so that, and I think Representative Fecto indicated in his testimony that most people, when they were voting for this in 1993, believed that it would be, 8 terms and then it would end. That wasn't the final outcome of the citizens' vote. So this was a way to try to capture that. But again, I didn't want to make any changes to what the citizens did vote for in 1993. So this just adds a lifetime service of 16 years, beginning with service in the 131st, so that it doesn't affect anybody's prior service whatsoever. It takes away the constitutionality concerns that some people had. So I think this is a good compromise, and I wanted to thank Lynn very much for her help with this in drafting.
Okay, thank you, Representative Greenwood. Any other comments by members of the committee? Okay. Representative Copeland? You're on mute.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I recognize that Representative Fecto has, given us his testimony and he addresses some of these questions, but I'm not convinced that that they work for everyone. So my concerns are that the voters can decide, and he talks about, in his testimony about the term limits and how he was an incumbent and how he was, had favorable, history. But I don't think that's enough. I think if people are happy with their representation, they will keep them in. If they're not, they won't. I don't think incumbency, and I realize that there is a favor for an incumbent, but I think if the people were disconnected from that representation, that they would show it in the ballot box. And so I don't see why we need to legislate what the voters are going to choose. I find that completely against fair elections. And the other one is about institutional knowledge, which he also addresses. But I would say that, yes, first termers like me are on a huge learning curve. So, but he dilutes the effect of the learning over years. And I don't. I think that we are continually learning, and we are continually having new experiences, new connections, new people coming in, new committees. So I think institutional knowledge is critical. Certainly as a freshman myself, I rely on what all the good people in this legislature have done before and their experiences. So I don't see that that this bill is necessary or needed, and I actually think it goes against the rights of people to vote who their representative is.
Okay, and Representative Ann Matlack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also I am also in agreement with Representative Copeland. I think that limiting those who want to serve is adverse to what is needed here in the legislature. I think that people do serve more terms than perhaps had been originally anticipated, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm very concerned about the loss of institutional knowledge, that it is compacted down to perhaps 8 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate. And it flips back and forth if that's the way you are serving out your terms in the legislature. But I think there is something that really is lost when people can't come in and learn and understand and bring in more and more knowledge about how a legislature works. I think you lose something when people don't get to stay in the legislature long enough to understand how things are happening. And when you leave the understanding of legislature and so forth to folks who are hired within the bureaucracy rather than people who are elected to represent their communities. So I'm opposed to restricting term limits even further. I wasn't a fan of them to begin with. And I think that they adversely impact the folks that want to participate. There are ways to encourage people to participate in the legislature, but banning other people from participating is not the way to encourage more participation by people who should want to go, want to join, to run for election, want to be part of the legislature. And I don't think that this is a way of encouraging that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So I know that we looked at the amendment as it currently is constituted. I'm not supporting the bill, but I don't know if somebody is going to move this amendment, or how you guys, what the committee wants to do. Representative Greenwood?
Yeah, I would move the amendment that was just shared by Lynn Caswell for ought to pass as amended.
And is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Representative Bryant, you had your hand up. I can't hear you.
Yes, I did have it up earlier, and I was going to make a motion, but I wasn't recognized. But.
Okay, sorry about that. So there is a motion and a second to amend the legislation with the amendment that we just saw. I'm going to indicate that I'm going to vote for this amendment because I had previously discussed it. I'm not certain how I'd vote on the floor until, because I want to see how the debate develops when this goes further. But I did put this forward, and I feel like I should follow through with what I had said. So Representative Matlack, you have some comments?
No, I just have a clarifying question. I would like to know what it is that we are voting on. Are we voting ought to pass as amended on the bill itself? And the amendment is the language that Lynn presented to us today?
Yes, that is the amendment.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so it'd be ought to pass as amended. Is that correct, Lynn? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Cheryl? There you are. Will you call the roll?
LD 321, an act to limit state legislators to a lifetime total of 16 years of legislative service. Ought to pass as amended. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus.
No.
Representative Sean Paulus, no. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative William Toole.
No.
Representative William Toole, no. Representative Mark Bryant.
No.
Representative Mark Bryant, no. Representative Ann Matlack.
No.
Representative Ann Matlack, no. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
No.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, no. Senator Ned Claxton.
No.
Senator Ned Claxton, no. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
No.
Representative Walter Reisman, no. Representative Kathy Downs.
No.
Representative Kathy Downs, no. Representative Lynn Copeland.
No.
Representative Lynn Copeland, no. 3 for the motion. 9 against the motion and 1 absent.
Okay, so that motion has failed. Lynn? You have your hand up.
I may have jumped the gun. You may have been heading this way.
Then we need
If
to have another motion, right?
you are so right, thank you.
Okay. So we need to have a motion, and Representative Bryant, did you want to make a motion?
Certainly. Thank you, Senator. I move ought to pass, ought not to pass on the bill itself.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Cheryl, you want to call any question, anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, I'd ask Cheryl to call the roll.
Okay. LD 321, an act to limit state legislators to a lifetime total of 16 years of legislative service. The motion now is ought not to pass. Representative Randall Greenwood.
No.
Representative Randall Greenwood, no. Representative
Yes.
Representative Sean Paulus, yes. Representative Francis Head.
No.
Representative Francis Head, no. Representative Will Toole.
Yes.
Representative Will Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. That's 10 ought not to pass against 2 and 1 absent.
Okay. So the next item is LD 564, an act to save money by eliminating the requirement that the annual reports of state agencies be printed. Okay, hold on. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Senator. I think you might want to ask the noes if they had another minority report, Senator.
Yes, Representative Greenwood, you have another minority report, is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My minority report would be ought to pass as amended by Committee Amendment A, which we voted on earlier, but.
Okay. Yep. Okay, duly noted for the record. And Representative Toole, you has your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to make the same observation that Representative Bryant was. And you may also want to check with Representative Head as to whether she concurs with Representative Greenwood's report as well. I'm assuming so, but that's a dangerous thing to do sometimes.
Representative Head, I'm assuming you agree with Representative Greenwood's report, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And, okay, so the next item is LD 564. Lynn, do you want to start this discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to note for Cheryl that Anya Trundy, who is the Director of Legislative Affairs from DAFS, is here. She was asked to attend, and also the State Archivist, Kate McBride, is available because there were some discussions about the State Archivist. So those two people are available.
Okay,
So
great.
this is a bill, an act to save money, eliminating the requirement that the annual reports of state agencies be printed. So this bill eliminates the requirement of one report, the main state government annual report. It removes the requirement that it be printed and changes it to a requirement that it be available online. It also removes the requirement that the state purchasing agent provide for the sale of copies of this report. And the copies that the state purchasing agent provides, and I'm going to screen share my analysis for a little while. Currently, this is a report that's over 400 pages long, and it's produced annually. Currently, the state purchasing agent provides 880 copies to the library and a reasonable number of copies to reporting agencies, legislative staff agencies, and every member of the legislature, or in the years of election, members elect. So this was presented by Representative Connor, and as a common sense way to save money. Again, it's only one report that this bill applies to. There were no opponents. The co-sponsor also spoke in favor of the bill. There were no opponents. At the time of the public hearing, there were neither for nor against, though the Department of Administrative and Financial Services did send an email afterwards indicating that they supported this report being fully digital and commenting that it's already online. There is an electronic version currently online, and it's searchable, which all of us who have to search Adobe documents knows is a wonderful feature. There were some information requests made, but I do see that Representative Paulus has his hand up, so perhaps I should pause.
I think I asked this during the public hearing and stuff, but I thought that there were going to be some. I don't think there was a specific number, but that copies were distributed. So I'm just looking at. There would be some printed copies for like archives and something like that to make sure that we have some archival printed hard copy.
Yeah, I think
but
that
I just didn't see.
Yeah, I think that is an issue that was raised. Lynn, did you want to address that, or Kate McBride?
I believe that the state archivist would probably be better. Would it be all right if I just breeze through these last comments and then I can take this down and you can continue? I just want to respond to, there was a question about how many public libraries there are. According to the Maine State Library, there are 260 public libraries. There was also a question about the cost to produce this report. According to DAFS, it's $4,700. That money is used to print 600 copies, which are the copies that are distributed, as you can see on the screen share. And that $407,000 is actually charged back to those agencies that supply information for this annual report. And then my final comment was, there was a question about how much agencies spend in general on printing reports. because each agency pays its own costs to print reports. This is one of the few reports that's printed by the Department of Administrative Financial Services. That question would need to be asked for all the various agencies, and they would need to respond. So that's a question that DAFS can't answer. And I'm going to stop my screen sharing because that's the end of my analysis.
Okay, Representative Lynn Copeland, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's really good information. I certainly appreciate the analyst giving us that 260 public libraries, and that this particular 400-page document, there are 600 copies made at the cost of $4,700. But we talk about that the purchasing department is the one who, generates the bills, whether they go back to the departments or not. Is there a number from cost from them on annual printing?
So I can answer that the cost for this report, and Anya is available to confirm, the cost to the agencies for this report, I believe, is less than $10. The question about how much agencies spend for all their other reports, that would need to be asked for each agency. There is no collective, nobody collects that information in an easy format to access.
Okay, Representative Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a great first step to reducing costs, but I also think we can't have onesie, twosie type of bills. And that if we're going to do this, we should look at the cost savings statewide for all of these reports. And I know the sponsor was open to that when it was raised during the public hearing. So I'm wondering if it would be a good idea to turn this into a resolve and have DAFS report back with a list of reports that this could be done with next session, and complete with cost estimates and what that might look like, if that's something folks might be interested in, or if DAFS would want to weigh in on that.
Okay, Representative Greenwood, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think the intent of this bill was just for that one particular report and maybe look future to see how this goes. But I mean, if we print 600 copies of the report at $4,700, and then there's distribution costs as well. So that probably wasn't accounted in there. It may be, but I'm not saying it is or it isn't. But a 400-page document does cost something to deliver, whether you mail it, whether you ship it via courier. But I guess my thoughts on this were, if we can produce this document and we need a printed copy, I think using a LaserJet printer, we can print 400 pages, probably more cost effective than we can, buy $4,700 in 600 copies. I think this is a great first step, and I'd kind of like to support the bill.
Okay. Anya Trundy, you had your hand up as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to respond to Representative Toole's comment about possibly DAFS reviewing, I guess, reports at large throughout across the state departments. This is just one report. It consists of usually about a page of information from several hundred state agencies. But DAFS doesn't have knowledge of the reporting requirements that are placed upon each and every department and agency. Those are, we really only have knowledge of those that apply directly to us.
Okay. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think Representative Toole had a good thought about doing the analysis going forward. And I also was surprised to see that, as a freshman, I didn't know this, that the analyst showed that every member of the legislature gets a copy. And I know that every member of the legislature is digital because here we are. So I wonder if, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but it seems reasonable to me that the legislators don't need a printed copy necessarily.
Representative Ann Matlack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would like to hear from our state archivist because as we heard before, you need paper copies. That digital copies have a tendency to be corrupted over time. And so you need a hard copy of some of the documents. So I'm wondering how much reduction in cost it would be, or whether the cost to produce a minimal amount of documents like this it doesn't reach the threshold of the cost savings, that by only requiring some of these documents, it's still an expensive, undertaking to produce just a few. So I was wondering what the archivist might think as a reasonable number that need to be held over, or if anybody else has an understanding of really how many copies, physical copies of any reports need to be shared around the state. Obviously, Ms. Trundy is saying that this is one that goes throughout the state government, as opposed to individual reports that stay within the certain agencies. And so, for example, the Red Book and the Tax Committee.
Okay, I think Representative Matlack is frozen, so I would recognize Kate McBrien.
You talked about taking that read on a regular basis. So it'd be interesting to know what sort of reports need to be saved, what reports don't need to be saved, and what she thinks should be required to be kept as paper copies.
Okay. Welcome, Kate McBrien.
Thank you so much, Senator Baldacci and Representative Matlack. So Maine statute requires that publications be collected by the state library, the Maine State Library, and every annual report is actually considered a publication. So it's the library who collects those. But as an archivist, what I can say is that those annual reports are always valuable to researchers in the future. And right now, the way the state of Maine government is set up, paper is our one and only way to preserve, to guarantee that we have a record for the future. We do not have a digital preservation system yet. It's something that we're going to be working towards. So if a report only existed in digital form, we wouldn't be able to preserve it. However, for preservation purposes, at least at the state library, state archives level, we need one copy. That's all we need. Now, what that means for access across the rest of the state, I can't really speak to that because, as we all know, internet capabilities around Maine are not standardized or equitable right now. But for preservation purposes, for a preserved record that would be available for future generations, we need one printed copy.
Okay, Lynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot to point out that the law does require that one printed copy of any report, whether it's electronic or not, goes to the state librarian. So that one copy requirement is still in statute, even if this report was electronic.
Right, I think, doesn't the proposed LD have 55 copies going to the state library? I think it does, and I think there's language in there that, right, isn't that?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I was correct. Lynn, you're on mute.
Actually, Mr. Chair, that applies to the reports, annual reports that are not in the large Maine general report. So the statute says any annual or biannual report that is not included in the Maine state government annual report, that's when there's 55 copies of those that go to the state librarian.
Okay. So Representative Matlack, you have your hand up.
Yes, I would be in agreement with Representative Tool that this is something that we should probably look at statewide with the various agencies with an eye towards the reduction of printing costs statewide. But it would also need to ensure that we do have the appropriate number of paper copies going forward until such time as we don't need them. I'm not sure where we would start with that, but that might be an idea. Just picking off one here and one there. I would prefer that we did it more broadly than just individually.
Okay, Representative Tool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I would concur with Representative Matlack, I wonder if the state archivist would weigh in about sort of overseeing if we were to direct the state archivist to come up with a report by next January of around these issues and what we could possibly eliminate and what the cost savings might be and what appropriate levels of printing would be, I think that could get us to a more comprehensive place. I mean, it's great to do one report, but wouldn't it be greater to actually save a lot more money if that's indeed possible? And Representative Greenwood brings up a good point about shipping costs as well. So, which is something that needs to be factored in as well.
Ms. McBrien, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. I think that's something that the state archives would love to work on, but probably with the state library as well, because it's the state library who has to collect the printed annual reports. And so they're the ones who know what we have, who's producing them. So maybe a collaborative thing would make sense.
Okay.
But because the state archives oversees records management for the state, I would love for us to be involved in some way.
Okay, great. Anya Trundy, did you have any comments? I didn't know if you...
I would just add to the question of distribution costs. The report is primarily distributed within state government. That's where most of the recipients are located. So it's distributed through state postal. So I don't believe that the distribution costs are particularly high, actually.
Okay, Representative Copeland, you had your hand up. You're on mute, Representative Copeland.
So sorry.
That's all right.
Knowing that the public libraries, that there are 260 of them in our state, first of all, I'm really proud of that. That's wonderful. But in terms of this bill and distribution, I think it's important for everyone to have access to information like this. And I would suggest that since we have 16 counties, maybe one per county, and then they do interlocal library sharing if people request the document. But I think at least one per county library.
Okay. So Representative Toole, did you have a motion you wanted to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would indeed make a motion. I would also comment on Representative Copeland that that's something that in the report that we're developing here, that certainly the archivist and the state library could make us any recommendations for legislation for next year. So that's something that could be encompassed in that if that's indeed how they wish, what they find. So with that, I would make a motion, ought to pass as amended, that we direct the state archivist and state library to report back on all of the statewide agencies that are currently printing reports that could possibly be made into digital reports primarily for distribution, to report back by January 15th. I think that's doable. And if not, I would entertain a friendly amendment to it. So did Does that make any sense?
Yes, it
Yes.
does, but
And
Representative Matt,
I would second that.
okay, it's moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Lynn Caswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would would Representative Toole like to think about adding a provision in the amendment that gives this committee the authority to report out legislation based on the report?
Yes, please,
Yes.
and thank you for reminding me.
I think that Representative Connor has given us a common sense bill. I think that the amendments that have been discussed today, I really think will make it even broader, and we'll get to look at the whole thing and hopefully help state government transition more fully to the digital age. Representative Reisman, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a lot of moving parts to this bill that we still need to be considering, so I would make a motion to table this bill for the time being.
Motion to table, okay, which takes precedence. I will have ask Cheryl to call the roll on the motion to table.
Is there a second?
Is there a second to his motion to table? Oh, that's a good point. Thank you, Senator Clax. I hear no second to the motion to table. Then I guess the motion dies without a second. Okay, so Representative Reisman, did you Representative Copeland, did you have your hand up?
I do, yes. I just, Representative Toole agreed to the amendment brought forward by the analyst, but I don't believe that Representative Matlack has had a chance to add that to her second, just procedural.
Okay.
Well, I seconded the motion made by Representative Toole.
Yeah. Okay. And then
But he
Representative
amended it to include that.
Representative Matlack, that's a friendly amendment, correct?
That's friendly. That is acceptable to me.
Thank you. Representative Paulus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure as part of that resolve, and I think we mentioned is that as identifying what reports for digital distribution and stuff, but also like making sure there's a plan of how many copies and every for archival and just, I just want to make sure that's part of the recommendation coming back in the report is how we do handle moving forward with archival and for the future on reports.
Correct. Yes. And Representative Toole, that's part of your motion, I'm assuming, right, is to make sure that archival historical reference purposes are noted in any subsequent report, correct?
Yes, that is exactly why I suggested it go the route that it do, so that they can present all of these issues to us in an organized way next January, so that when we do actually, in fact, vote to do something, where we have all of this stuff worked out.
Okay, Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although my personal preference would be to move forward with the bill, I understand the motion to amend is on the floor. I will support the motion to amend and do the study. But I think it's important that the bill was clear, was for one particular report, and I would have supported that had that been the motion.
Okay, duly noted. Representative Reisman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to make sure I understand what we're trying to do with this bill. We're changing it from an act to a resolve, and then we're requiring the archivist to basically poll all the state agencies in terms of what reports are being printed and the quantities of each report. And that's what we're trying to do with the amendment to the bill. Am I on the right page here?
You are, sir. And I'm sure the legislators.
And the Maine State Librarian.
and the Maine State Librarian. Lynn, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was just to say what Representative Matlack said, that the state librarian is part.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would ask Cheryl to call the roll.
Okay.
On the ought to pass as amended of LD 564.
LD 564, an act to save money to eliminate the requirement that the annual reports of state agencies be printed. Ought to pass as amended. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus.
Yes.
Representative Sean Paulus, yes. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Will Toole.
Yes.
Representative Will Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes, and I'd like to thank Representative Connor for bringing this issue forward.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. That's 12 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, is there anything else we need to do on this item? Okay.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So now I open the work session on LD 584, resolve to establish a commission to study the reduction of unfunded and outdated municipal mandates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to note that Rebecca Graham from the Maine Municipal Association is in the waiting room and available to answer questions. So this bill is a bill that was sponsored by Representative Toole. It is intended to ease the burden on municipalities, both tax burden and administrative burdens, by identifying mandates on municipalities that may either be outdated or unfunded. It sets up a commission with 15 members appointed by a combination of the Senate President, the House Speaker, the House and Senate minority leaders, and the governor. The commission is required to meet at least twice a year for 2 years to review the unfunded and outdated mandates and to provide a recommendation and to report out a list of mandates for the legislature to consider eliminating or revising. And the report is due by December 31st of 2023. So I believe Representative Toole mentioned that in the 127, there was a similar effort, and it was voted out of this committee with 7 ought not to pass and 6 ought to pass as amended. And it actually died between the chambers with, which is something interesting that I always like to comment on when it doesn't quite come out easy. The only question I would raise, or technical issue I would raise with this bill, because it's fairly straightforward, is that it doesn't provide the committee with the authority to report out legislation, hence why I brought it up just recently. So that would be my only comment on the bill, or the resolve, the resolve, is that if it's moved forward, you may want to add that provision.
Thank you, Lynn. Representative Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would definitely suggest that that be done. That was my oversight, and it should have been caught, and I didn't catch it. I would also, I know Representative Copeland last week mentioned the possibility of electronic meetings for the commission during the off session, if that's how, to at least allow that to be the case. So I would be open to that being added in as well.
Okay, so electronic meetings will be allowable, and any other questions or comments, Representative Matlack?
Yes. It's like where to begin with investigating these issues. I was wondering if Ms. Graham if the MMA already had a list of unfunded mandates, or what is the other one? Unfunded or outdated mandates that the MMA has put together that they would be proposing, or would the commission be doing that on their own?
Okay, Ms. Graham?
Thank you, Representative Matlack. MMA has kept a pretty comprehensive list rolling forward of all of the unfunded mandates that are applied upon municipalities, and we would certainly offer that as a starting point. I believe that there might be an opportunity for discussion amongst some of them as well. For instance, a town is not required to have a fire department. However, functionally, it must, because insurance requires that for most individuals. In order to protect their assets, they at least have to have a mutual aid compact. So there are a number of mandates that are applied to fire departments and police departments that are unfunded mandates, but it's not necessarily a mandate for those communities to have those services. So there are things similar to that I think the commission could dive into it a little bit deeper, but we certainly have a pretty solid place to start and a pretty solid list.
A follow-up, if I might.
Yes.
Are the mandates that we're talking about, are these state mandates or other demands, as you listed right here, that are not made by the state, but which would be made by perhaps insurance companies? Is that also what you were thinking that needs to be studied?
No, I only brought up those two particular pieces because often there are conditions that insurance companies raise that require communities to have those particular types of services that are widely recognized, but there isn't anything in statute that would require a municipality to actually have a fire department. It's just that the way that functions on the ground. I believe that there are federal mandates that intersect with municipal interests as well. And I'm not sure how that commission would approach that, but it may be at least an anecdotal conversation to be part of that. But there are state mandates are what we basically track and collect.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Claxton.
Yes, I was hoping Ms. Graham could explain to me or give me an example of what options are available to the municipalities for contesting these unfunded mandates that have been in place for a while. Have you brought back, it seems to me probably the only option is to bring back a bill to the legislature for reconsideration. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator Claxton, that would be my understanding. I believe it would be a challenge because they spread across a number of services. So it certainly would have to be a piecemeal approach. A number of them are also applied through rulemaking. Rulemaking is often, if it is routine and technical, it does impose financial obligations upon communities, but doesn't have the 2/3 override or vote of the legislature piece. We would still consider that a mandate because it is an extension or requirement of duty that would not necessarily be incumbent upon municipalities to provide. However, it doesn't go through that formal process. Currently, a mandate, as we identify it, is usually brought up by us through testimony on those particular pieces of legislation. So there's a kind of a voice in at that point. If the mandate is not funded by state, then there is, and it receives the 2/3 majority vote of both houses, then there isn't a requirement for a municipality to comply with that mandate. However, municipal officials are often extremely diligent individuals and believe that there are good reasons for doing those pieces, but that unfortunately translates to a burden upon the folks that have to fund that.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator.
I want to make sure that whatever gets reported out, we have the option to begin to address any things that need addressing in the ability to write future legislation. And it would help in the report out if there was a sense of the priority of any of the mandates over another's, or a malleability of the required mandates, to help give us some guidance. If we turn up 75, I guess there's going to be likely no appetite for approaching all 75 in one bill, just my guess. But if we could identify some priorities in this report, that would be very helpful to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Claxton. I think you might make a great chairman of this committee, so I'm glad you had those thoughts. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a great point. And I'm just curious, Ms. Graham, do you know how many are on your list? Is it, 75? Is it, 500? I don't know.
It's probably, yeah.
Go ahead, Senator, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm sure it's over 100, but I'll let you be, you're the expert. You should answer that.
My former colleague, Garrett Corbin, spent a lot of time on this issue. So he was annually adding to what is currently, I'm trying to find the number count because I think that would be the page count, because I think that would be easier than the number that is included in. It's like, it looks like it's several hundred pages long at this point in time. And it spreads across very many different disciplines, which is why the count piece would be something that I wouldn't be able to.
If I may, Mr. Chair, follow up.
Go ahead, Representative.
Do you maintain a list of the unfunded mandates that the municipalities have flagged as important?
I'm not quite, I guess we would probably weigh that with our members. I don't think that we would make that call. I don't know that we've ever actually asked that question. That would be a really good question. I think that maybe as part of the commission process, we could actually throw out some polling those member communities to ask those questions.
Right, and probably larger communities are going to have different ones than smaller communities. So, but I think that is a good question in terms of kind of prioritizing them. Would be helpful for this type of commission, because I'm assuming significant input in addition to membership from the Maine Municipal. Thank you. Representative Copeland, did you have any other questions?
All set. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion on the table? Representative Toole?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would make a motion, but I would defer to Senator Claxton since he had a really great idea. And I want to make sure that he gets that fully encompassed in the motion. So
the Toole motion with the Claxton caveat. Senator Claxton? I'm just trying to inject a little bit of humor on this.
I can appreciate it, and I appreciate Representative Toole's deference. But I think the goal, I would move that MMA and crucial stakeholders be empowered to review existing mandates for those that could be eliminated because they're outdated, and to prioritize the existing ones to give the committee some direction in forming legislation after the report out at some date in the future.
Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second? Representative Matlack, you have your hand up.
Oh, I was just going to say that we're talking about state mandates here, correct? That's
Yes.
what we will be discussing? Okay, thank
Yes.
Yeah.
If Representative Toole would like to second, I would defer to him, otherwise I will.
I will second, but I just want to be clear that we're still establishing the commission as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Good deal. So, and electronic meetings as a, yes,
Representative
Yes.
Copeland?
that was Representative Copeland's suggestion. I don't want to lose track of it, so.
No, that's true. Representative
Thank you.
Copeland.
Yes, I also, instead of just saying, stakeholders or whatever, I think that it's laid out very clearly in Representative Toole's bill who those the committee should consist of, and I think that that should be incorporated as well.
I
Right.
would take that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I think those are incorporated. The one question I have for Ms. Graham, I think, is there was a Maine Mayors Coalition. Is that still going on? Is that still operating? It was kind of separate from MMA.
Yes, Senator, I believe there's Maine mayors and there's also Maine towns and cities.
Okay.
And those deal with service center communities who, as you had pointed out, do face different challenges.
Well, I'm hopeful that we get the representation from service center communities as well. So, but I'm sure that can be accommodated with the existing language. Representative Toole?
Yes, and before we vote, could we have Lynn sort of reiterate the motion so that everybody knows what we're voting on? Because we have kind of strayed a little bit, so.
Yes.
We
Thank you.
didn't stray. Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion is to amend the current bill to make it possible for this commission to hold meetings electronically, to add language that gives the SLG committee the authority to report out legislation based on the recommendations of the commission, and to specify that the report back from the commission should identify outdated mandates and should prioritize the mandates to be eliminated or revised.
Okay, I think that succinctly states what we're voting on as ought to pass as amended is the issue, and I think we're ready for the roll call.
Alrighty. LD 584, resolved to establish the commission to study the reduction of unfunded and outdated municipal mandates. Ought to pass as amended. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus.
Yes.
Representative Sean Paulus, yes. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Will Toole.
Yes.
Representative Will Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
No.
Representative Mark Bryant, no. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 11 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent.
Okay. Representative Bryant, did you want to have a minority report?
No, not to pass. I think it's MMA's job to do, and I'm not sure why we're in it, but.
Okay. So that covers that. Lynn, is there any other items that we should be covering?
No, there are no other items on the committee's agenda for today.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
One quick note.
Yeah.
We do have public hearings on Wednesday. We have work session. We also have our final discussion of the biennial budget. So that will occur after we are done with our bills on Wednesday.
Right, we have that at 1 o'clock. We have the public hearing at 10, a 10:30 work session, and a 1 o'clock meeting on the budget.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
seconded. Thank you. We'll see, until then, we'll see each other later.
Enjoy your day.
You as well.